Shechem, Chem, also spelled Sichem, Tiberian Šəխem, shoulder, was a Canaanite city mentioned in the Amarna letters, and is mentioned in the Hebrew Bible as an Israelite city of the tribe of Manasseh and the first capital of the Kingdom of Israel. Traditionally associated with Nablus, it is now identified with the nearby site of Tell Balata in Balata or al-Balad in the West Bank. Geographical position. Its position is indicated in the Hebrew Bible. It lay north of Bethel and Shiloh, on the high road going from Jerusalem to the northern districts. At a short distance from Michmethath and of Dothain, it was in the hill country of Ephraim, immediately below Mount Gerizim. These indications are substantiated by Josephus, who says that the city lay between Mount Ebal and Mount Gerizim, and by the Madaba map, which places Sichem, also called Ssɪkəm, between the Torgobal and the Torgarizim. The site of Shechem in patristic sources is almost invariably identified with or located close to the town of Flavia Neapolish, Nablus. History. Early history. The old city of Shechem dates back to about an estimated 4,000 years. Shechem is mentioned in the 3rd millennium Ebla tablets found at Tell Balata in the context of a city of which Rusap is the patron deity. Shechem was a commercial center due to its position in the middle of vital trade routes through the region. It traded in local grapes, olives, wheat, livestock and pottery between the Middle Bronze Age and the late Hellenic period. Shechem had been a Canaanite settlement, first mentioned in Egyptian texts on the Sabikhu stela, an Egyptian stela of a noble at the court of Senusret III. In the Amarna letters of about 1350 BC, Sakmu was the center of a kingdom carved out by Libiah, a Canaanite warlord who recruited mercenaries from among the Habiru. Libiah was the author of 3 Amarna letters, and his name appears in 11 of the other 382 letters, referred to 28 times, with the basic topic of the letter being Libiah himself, and his relationship with the rebelling countryside Habiru. It may be identical to the ссɪkəm mentioned in an account dated to the 19th Egyptian dynasty. Better source needed. Hebrew Bible, Old Testament. Shechem first appears in the Bible in Genesis chapter 12 verses 6-8, which records how Abraham reached the great tree of Moreh at Shechem and offered sacrifice nearby. Genesis, Deuteronomy, the Book of Judges and Joshua hallow Shechem over all other cities of the land of Israel. At Shechem, Abram built an altar to the Lord who had appeared to him, and had given that land to his descendants. The Bible states that on this occasion, God confirmed the covenant he had first made with Abraham in Haran, regarding the possession of the land of Canaan. In Jewish tradition, the old name was understood in terms of the Hebrew word sshem, shoulder, saddle, corresponding to the mountainous configuration of the place. On a later sojourn, 2 sons of Jacob, Simeon and Levi, avenged their sister Dinah's rape by Shechem, the son of Hamor the Hivite, the prince of the land of Shechem, by massacring the city's inhabitants. Later, following the Exodus, Joshua assembled the Israelites in Shechem and commanded them to reaffirm their adherence to the Torah. Shechem was given as a Levitical city to the Kohathites, owing to its central position, no less than to the presence in the neighborhood of places hallowed by the memory of Abraham, Jacob's well, and the Joseph's tomb. The city was destined to play an important part in the history of Israel. The city, including its Bronze Age temple, fell to the Israelites sometime before 1000 BC. After Gideon's death, Abimelech, his son by a Sichemite concubine, was made king. Jotham, the youngest son of Gideon, made an allegorical speech on Mount Gerizim in which he warned the people of Shechem about Abimelech's future tyranny. When the city rose in rebellion 3 years later, Abimelech took it, utterly destroyed it, and burnt the temple of Baal-berith where the people had fled for safety. From the excavations, it was learned that the city was destroyed in 1100 BC. The city was rebuilt in the 10th century BC and was probably the capital of Ephraim. Shechem was the place appointed, after Solomon's death, for the meeting of the people of Israel and the investiture of Rehoboam. The meeting ended in the secession of the 10 northern tribes, and Shechem, fortified by Jeroboam, became the capital of the new kingdom. When the kings of Israel moved first to Tirzah, and later on to Samaria, Shechem lost its importance, and we do not hear of it until after the fall of Jerusalem. The events connected with the restoration were to bring it again into prominence. When, on his second visit to Jerusalem, Nehemiah expelled the grandson of the high priest Eliashib, and with him the many Jews, priests and laymen, who sided with the rebel. These betook themselves to Shechem. A schismatic temple was then erected on Mount Gerizim, and thus Shechem became the holy city of the Samaritans. The latter, who were left unmolested while the Orthodox Jews were chafing under the heavy hand of Antiochus IV, and welcomed with open arms every renegade who came to them from Jerusalem, fell about 128 BC, before John Hyrcanus, and their temple was destroyed. New Testament in Acts chapter 7 verse 16. The place is called Sichem. It is not known whether Sychar in the Gospel of John chapter 4 verse 5 refers to Shechem or to a nearby village. Shechem is also the location of Jacob's well, where John chapter 4 verses 5 to 6 describes Jesus a meeting with the woman of Samaria. Some of its inhabitants were of the number of the Samaritans, who believed in Jesus when he tarried 2 days in the neighborhood. The city must have been visited by the apostles on their way from Samaria to Jerusalem. Classical history. In classical times, Shechem was the main settlement of the Samaritans, whose religious center stood on Mount Gerizim, just outside the town. In AD 6, Shechem was annexed to the Roman province of Syria. Of the Samaritans of Sichem, not a few rose up in arms on Mount Gerizim at the time of the Galilean Rebellion, which was part of the First Jewish-Roman War. The city was very likely destroyed by Israelites during that war. In AD 72, a new city, Flavia Neapolis, was built by Vespasian 2 kilometers to the west of the old one. This city's name was eventually corrupted to the modern Nablus. Josephus, writing in about AD 90, placed the city between Mount Gerizim and Mount Ebal. Elsewhere he refers to it as Neapolis, Nablus. In Emperor Hadrian's reign, the temple on Mount Gerizim was restored and dedicated to Jupiter. Like Shechem, Neapolis had a very early Christian community, including the early Saint Justin Martyr. We hear even of bishops of Neapolis. On several occasions, the Christians suffered greatly from the Samaritans. In 474, the emperor, to avenge an unjust attack by the sect, deprived the latter of Mount Gerizim and gave it to the Christians, who built on it a church dedicated to the Blessed Virgin. Later history. The city of Nablus was Islamicized in the Abbasid and Ottoman periods. In 1903, near Nablus, a German party of archaeologists led by Dr. Hermann Tisch stumbled upon the site called Tell Balata and now identified as ancient Shechem. Nablus is still referred to as Shechem by Israelis and Hebrew speakers. Distinguished from Sichem is an anthroposophical and Islamic foundation and farming village centered on principles for biodynamic agriculture in Egypt. This name refers to Shechem, and to the ancient Egyptian hieroglyph pronounced Sichem, meaning vitality or life.